Individual project title, table saws. Why are people still getting injured? By Mitchell Sutter. So what is a table saw? A table saw is a multi-function tool used for woodworking, construction, remodeling. It cuts multiple products such as wood, fiberglass, laminates, plastics. Uh, these are just to name a few. The blade type will change depending on what type of product that needs to be cut, such as plywood blades or plastic blades. So how is it used? Well, it's a stationary tool, and then you have to manually feed the material or product into the rotating blade. That blade is rotating between 3,000 RPMs and 5,500 RPMs. And they also have extremely sharp teeth depending on the blade being used. Safety features, there are blade guards, push sticks, either can be made from homemade that will work, or sometimes push sticks are provided with the machine. The machine also has a rip fence, so that way you can get a dimensional cut. They might even have a miter gauge or a miter gauge slot, which is a tool that you can use to push the product through, and your hand is protected from the blade. Oftentimes there's little fingers that are called for kickback protection, so that way that material does not come back at the individual at the base of the saw. And in 2000, there was some new technology called saw stop brake, and it's a technology that is supposed to prevent any injuries that take place while operating a table saw. Speaking of injuries, it is estimated that there's 30,000 blade contact injuries per year when dealing with a table saw, of which 4,000 of those result in some type of amputation. Oftentimes, the estimate is $500,000 in hospitalization fees, lost income per incident. This also includes therapy. This might include additional surgeries after the initial reconstruction to go in and do some scar repair and multiple things as well. That does not include possible being placed on disability as a result of the injuries. So OSHA safety requirements, OSHA 29 CFR 1910 subpart O in the book, in the code, is machinery and machine guarding. Specifically within subpart O of 1910, there is OSHA 29 CFR 1910.213. This has to deal with all woodworking machinery requirements. Included in this requirement might be bandsaws, lathes, joiners, multiple power tools used for wood making. Being that my subject today is table saws, I restricted my citation for the safety requirements to just those. So CFR 29 CFR 1910-213 parent C is hand-fed rip saws, and then 29 CFR 1910.213 parent D is for hand-fed cross-cut table saws. Oftentimes, it's the same machine that will be doing the cutting. It's just a rip saw will use a different blade than a cross-cut. So why the continued injuries? In August 2025, Consumer Product Commission discontinued the plan to try mandating that saw stop technology in all new table saws. They've been trying to do this for 20 years. The reason why, the lobby came from the construction industry primarily. They were complaining is there's increased cost. You got a cost to replace the blade and the device anytime that there's an activation of the brake. That pretty much, it's just a one-time use for the brake, and it does also ruin the blade. Construction industry also stated that the current safety equipment that's already in place, that is required to be in place, is sufficient enough to prevent the injuries, providing there's been proper training in how to use table saws. So they say that if the guards are in place, the kickback features are in place. Proper training. With all these, there should not be any injuries associated with table saws. So that's why they were able to convince the Consumer Product Safety Commission to discontinue the planned mandates. The other reason why there might be injuries is complacency. I've gotten away doing or operating the table saw in this manner before, and I'll do it again. Well, all of a sudden now something changed, and you did something and you sustained that injury. The other thing is shortcuts. The shortcut is, for example, is I have a blade in that will cut a board or will cut, any dimensional lumber, but now I need to cut some plywood. So I need to put a different blade in for plywood. So I'm going to take the guard off, switch the blade from the dimensional wood blade to the plywood blade, but then when I'm done, I'm going to put the dimensional blade back on. So what might I not do? I'm not going to put the guard back on. I'm going to switch blades, do my cut, and then I'm going to switch the blade back, and then I'll put the guard back on. Well, that was a shortcut. And that shortcut can often lead to injuries. So some of the limitations to the saw stop technology, it needs to be deactivated if you're cutting green wood, meaning something that's a fresh cut from a tree that hasn't been cured out. Any wood that's been green, or what we call treated, or green treated, but it can be a brown treatment as well. That is pressure treated impregnant chemical to make sure that the wood doesn't rot, but that is wet. And then there's also wet wood, where if you had your wood out in the elements and you picked up a piece after rain and now it is wet. Not all blades are functional with saw stop technology. So if you pick up a blade, and they are fairly expensive to fit your table saw, it might not work. The reason why it might not work is because there's an electrical signal that goes through the blade. It's 12 volts, but it's 200 kilohertz. Very, very minimal current. And what happens is when that blade senses something wet, it like blows a fuse, activates a brake, which then stops the blade. So when we use that green wood or green or wet wood, or the blade doesn't conduct electricity properly, it won't work. And there's also sawtooth design. Not all sawtooth blades are compatible. You need a saw blade with a 3/32 cut to 3/16 cut, which is a kerf. The kerf is the width of the cutting tooth. So each tooth is slightly offset, and it's that width that you got to have for the saw stop to work properly. And like I said before, once the braking system's been activated, you're going to need to get a new brake because it's a one and done, and it also damages the blade to the point where it stops it and the blade falls down, that you're going to have to replace the blade as well. So it can end up being very costly for a person to use the saw stop technology. However, it does work, and it would show it in a movie, or in the class they had the video that they used a hot dog, and the minute that hot dog hit it, bang, it stopped it. So in conclusion, the technology does exist to prevent injuries. However, the cost of the saw stop, people are saying that that's too much of additional cost. But when you look at the total cost of a saw stop technology, can far outweigh the costs and expenses that occur as a result of injuries, especially over a lifetime. So the technology's there. Now, I need to give a full disclaimer. On November 27th, 2025, Thanksgiving Day, at my home, I was using a table saw, and I was cutting a fiberglass wallboard, very thin, on a table saw, a portable table saw, and I did not have it set up properly, and as the material went over, it arched. And when it arched, it came up above the blade, and I had the blade down as minimal as I could to do a proper cut, yet be safe. And yes, I had taken the guard off to replace the blade. The blade that was in there was the blade that I use for very precise precision cuts for woodworking, for cabinetry. The one that I put in there was something that was old, and this wallboard tends to be very hard on the blade. Well, what happened was, as it arched, I, without a stick, reached behind the blade to push the material down to get it engaged in the blade, at which time it kicked back. And as it kicked back, it dragged my hand back across the blade. And the picture that you see there is my hand post-surgery. I will hold it up as well. You've got to see where I'm going here. So currently, this photo was January 7th. So it was probably about 6 weeks after the surgery. I'm not going to show you the picture of the initial injury because it is fairly gruesome. I am an EMT and I'm an EMS instructor. Therefore, I did put on the tourniquet myself and then proceeded to have taken in my ambulance. They could not salvage the fingers because there was just too much damage. They could not get circulation. The injuries were severed flexor tendons between the index finger and the middle finger, and broken bone on the left thumb, which is pretty much healed, and it amputated the left ring finger and half of the pinky finger. And I am going through weekly physical therapy or occupational therapy. I am getting it back, but this has definitely been a life-changing event for me, and that's one reason why I chose this topic as a topic to use. So there are my references. I thank you for your time and viewing of my presentation for product safety.